Hey y'all, it's the Eclectic Blerd. Welcome to another Eclectic review. Today we're going to be talking about WandaVision episode 6. I think it's an all new Halloween Spooktacular is what the episode is called. So before I begin, I like to give my overall perception of the episode. Today we get another ooh-wee, and for Elizabeth Olsen, she's really bodying Wanda, and shows how much I love the character and why I identify with the character so much. So, y'all ready? All right, let's get into the episode. Of course, they opened again with a TV type opening. So the kids are a little bit older. They look like they're about 9-ish now, 9, 10-ish on the show, the twins. And they're opening, it's like a Disney, Nickelodeon, ABC TV show opening. It's almost like, what's that show? Malcolm in the Middle. It kind of looked like the way Malcolm in the Middle came on a little bit with just some magical elements to it, of course. And so it comes on like that, and the kids are actually opening the show. So that tells me that the kids are going to be important in this particular episode. Just before it even started, because they're into the 90s, the kids are there, and Pedro is still there. I didn't think he was going to remain. I thought they just would say, oh, somebody showed up and Wanda did something, and it wasn't real. But he's still there, so we'll see what happens with that. He's also in the opening, and he's like the, I don't know, the cool uncle to the two kids. And as we open, like I said, it's based around the two kids. One, the personalities are totally different. One's outgoing, the other one's not so much. And they both love Uncle Pietro. And in the beginning, he's actually running around acting like a big kid himself. So he's like they said on there, he's a man child. All that's going on, and they come down, and it's Halloween day on the show. So Vision and Wanda come down in the outfits that, if you've ever read any of the Wanda and Vision comic books from, I think, the 60s, late 60s, I think it was in the 60s, those were the outfits that they were actually wearing in the comic book. And so that was interesting. So the people that are really deep comic nerds are probably really enjoyed they had those outfits on. And they came down, and Vision and Wanda are still kind of at odds, and Vision has come to a point where Wanda's no longer really controlling him like she was in the first few episodes. So she's losing a little bit of control over him somehow. Maybe because he's a machine, right? And so you can only control a machine like that, a sentient being like that, for so long. So they go and they have a little argument, and the kid was like, hey, my mom and dad have not been on the same wavelength recently, which is basically going along with the theme of they really were attached because they both have a little bit of the mind stone in them. But for some reason, at this point, they're starting to separate in their ideas of what's happening in that town. So Vision goes off and does what he does. So what I'm going to do a little bit is, if you watch my last episode, I'm probably going to use some words and terms that I use just to describe the episode. And I'm going to hop back and forth, so it's not going to be in order. So just get ready just to hear what happened, and not necessarily 100% in order. All right? So we're going to stay inside the hex and talk about the majority of the stuff that happened in the hex. And from the last episode review, the Hex is actually where Wanda's at with the with all the people and controlling it. That's called the Hex based on Darcy's word from last episode, which I am going to continue to use, by the way. So in the Hex, Pietro is the funny, cool uncle with the speed and everything else. But for some reason, Wanda keeps questioning him like, look, you don't look like my brother. Are you really my brother? How are you here? I don't understand how you even in this town. And so she's continually to kind of poke and prod at him, like, hey, you remember when? Do you remember that? Or he'll say something, she'll be like, I don't really remember it that way. And so she's even a little skeptical of how he's there and what he's doing there. So they decide to leave for Halloween. Remember, Vision off on his own at this point. Where they're out, Pietro takes the kids and just is acting up, going around, stealing candy, smashing pumpkins. Just honestly, he's acting nothing like the brother that she knew in the MCU, and everything like the Quicksilver from X-Men. And so that's really been a really fun and weird concept to see, because in this episode, he started saying stuff that only he would know about her. And so that really made some interesting things happen in the particular episode for me anyway. And they made a reference to a movie that he was once in, and that was interesting. And the kids start to get their powers in this particular episode. And so the first one to get it, I'm not gonna mix them up. I'm gonna say twin one and twin two, and say that he got the speed, and he used and realized he had it. At that point, he was ready to just run around. And one was like, "Look, you gotta take your brother with you if you're trying to run around this town," and told the rule not go past Ellis Street, which is basically the border of the Hex. Outside of the Hex, which is where we're in the real world, we have Monica and Jimmy and Darcy talking to the director of SWORD. And basically, Monica's like, what the crap? You cut me off because you decided to shoot a rocket at her. And he basically is talking like, there should be no heroes in this world, and there should be nobody with powers. And I'm just like, man, that sounds like some anti-mutant stuff. I know I'm not watching the X-Men now, man. I'm watching the MCU, because that's the sound that you hear if you actually read the comics or actually just watch the movies. The whole concept of X-Men is basically mutants versus humans, and that the humans didn't want mutants around and was trying to do things to keep them down. And that kind of what split up two-man Magneto and Dr. Xavier, because Magneto's like, look, why I gotta serve them when they never did anything for, they always coming for mutants trying to kill us. Why don't we just get rid of them? Because we're the ones with power, we're the strong ones. And Professor X didn't want to do that, right? But that's another thing, right? So we're going to get back to the storyline. And so they're in there and they're arguing. And basically, he decided to come at Monica like, look, I know you like being around power people. You've been around Captain Marvel. And she was like, so what? What they got to do with anything? I just kind of feel like me and Wanda, there's something that I feel like we have some sort of connection about the tragedy that's going on within her. And then he's like, you know what? I'm tired of y'all. Be gone. And so basically they went to take him to arrest him. And then by the time they got to the trucks, old Jimmy put some hands on the officers that had them, and him and Monica just kind of took control of the situation, knocked out the 4 officers that was walking them out, and they went, and Darcy went and kind of hacked into the system, and lo and behold, they tracking Vision inside of the hex. Now that was very interesting. I'm like, how in the world are you tracking Vision? Why'd you put Monica on this if you knew Vision was in it in the first place? It felt like you knew what was going on before this happened. But I digress. Not only that, they were tracking everybody in the hex. So it really felt like they got a way to get them out of there. But he is so concentrating on killing Wanda for some apparent reason. And so Darcy then said, oh, Monica, your blood changing. Your cells are changing. And she's like, man, bro, look, okay, cells do this and metastasize, talking almost cancerous type terminology from a doctor's standpoint. That, something around your cell and hardened, then it loosened. And so that's going on. And Darcy's saying, hey, every time you went through there, something happened to your cells and to your blood. And she was like, well, I found a way to get back in. If it happened again, I'm good. Don't worry about it. And for me, I'm wondering if something really happened when she went in and out of there, or if it was already there. But that's another story. They may be using Wanda to power her. But for me, I think she might have already had something going on before that point. Just from her exposure to Captain Marvel and some of the things that were going on. Because we don't know what happened between, with her growing up in the speed that she did, right? Between Captain Marvel and by the time the events of Infinity War and then Endgame happened, we don't know what she went on and what went on with her mother. Outside of, it's implied that her mother actually started SWORD or was a integral part of starting SWORD. But that's all we kind of know about that group. So I did all that and said, okay, we're not worried about it. Darcy's like, look, I need to stay. I feel like that they doing something they're not supposed to do up in here. And they're like, all right, we finna go so I can get back into the hex and try to figure out what's going on with Wanda and everything. And one more thing. Basically, they want to start a war with Wanda. And Monica like, you can't beat her, right? What you doing? You can't beat her. How do you think you're gonna beat her? And they not trying to hear it, right? And so that's why Jimmy and Monica and Darcy went off to do their own little thing there. So Monica and Jimmy are gone. So now let's go back into the hex. We're back in the hex. Vision is walking towards the edge of town. And while he's walking, it's people there that I don't know if Wanda not helping them do anything because they're just kind of doing a repetitive motion, almost standing in place, barely moving. And it's just like the farther way to get from the center of town to get from Wanda, the less she gives them to do, the less she can control them. But she can't give them nothing, so it's probably even harder on them because they're barely moving. Then Vision runs into Agnes. And she's like, I get lost. And he was like, how you get lost, bro? You was born here. You live here. You're Lord. You should not be getting lost. So he did the little mind touch, walk her up. And then he was like, oh, thank God, you can help us. You're an Avenger. He was like, an Avenger? And she was like, oh, wait. No, you're dead. And she was like, huh? Yeah, you're dead, man. What you doing? And she just kept, you dead, you dead, you dead. I'm like, man, why she just, okay, he heard you, bro. You got to keep telling you dead. But kept doing that and laughing and doing it. I was like, man. So Agnes seemed to look crazy in real life and not just when she under Wanda's power. That is weird. But so she was laughing and acting so crazy that Vision went, bloop, bloop, I got to put you back in. It's almost like the Matrix, right? So yeah, Oh, I'll put you back in. You back into the system. Oh, you can get out, but oh no, you gotta put you back in. So Vision at that point, like, man, one of the hurting these people, I gotta figure out a way to help them. So he looks up and finds things, and so he starts walking towards the edge of the thing. Now, at the same time, Wanda's talking to Petra, and she was like, what do you think? And he was like, man, this town is nice, and our parents would have loved it. And she was like, you know what? Why you don't look like you're supposed to? And he was like, I don't know, maybe you didn't want to deal with the trauma, bro. I know my sister, I don't think you want to deal with the trauma of it. And then she did a quick turn and saw the bullets in him, and he looked almost zombie-like. And that was kind of interesting because she saw that same thing on Vision. Was it episode 4, I think? Which was a very interesting thing in itself. And so at that point, they're talking, and then he was like, how'd you do it? How did you do this? And he looking at her, and she's like, you don't think it's bad? She's like, no, bro, it's fine, but how did you do it? And she's like, I don't know. I was just so empty inside with everything that had went on. And that's one of the things that's so easy to identify because, well, I get into it after I finish. Let's finish this last little bit. So at that point, Vision decide, you know what, I'm finna come through here and they need help. So he go through the hex, and when he come out on the other side, the hex is trying to pull him back in. So theoretically, he's starting to die, right? And as he's starting to die, it's just like, wow, are they going to kill off Vision in episode 6? And then the second twin starts to hear what's going on with his father. So the other and come out, and then he stop him. He's like, oh, you got a power too. And he's like, it's not time to play. And so he runs to Wanda, the mother, like, Mom, something's happening to Dad. What's going on? And Petra like, man, how you gonna die twice? Which is kind of mean, but that's what he said. And so she blasted him. Yeah, she blasted Petra and told the twin number 2, concentrate. What do you hear? There are a bunch of army people, and they think he's dying. So at that point, she basically paused everything in the hex. And as Vision says, help the people, he falls to the ground, and he realized that he's coming to pieces. Darcy's there, and she started running like, help him. And they're just standing there like they want his body to die, like they need it for something. And then next thing you know, Wanda starts to expand the hex. So now the hex is moving kind of like the Blob. They're going, or if you ever saw the movie Battleship, you know, when the aliens landed and they put out their big shield, and that's what she did. But in this particular part, it was expanding out, so the army camp or the sword camp, whatever you want to call it, was starting to get engulfed by the hex. And this was what's funny. Darcy go in, and my first thought was, oh, I wonder what she gonna do with Darcy. Darcy go in, they kind of black it out so you can see nothing happen to her, so you don't know what's she gonna be in there. At this point, she's handcuffed because they want to get rid of her, right? She's handcuffed to a Jeep. So the people start running, trying to get away from the hex. And if they get caught in the hex, she decides to make the camp a circus, right? And so now all the officers are becoming clowns on the way out. And that is very, very interesting. But you don't see what Darcy becomes, so I'm really kind of like, oh man, I wonder what she gonna be inside the hex. And it catches everybody, but the director and the 3 or 4 people and Monica and Jimmy. Everybody else that was around that camp is now in the Hex because she expanded so much. And then they didn't show you that the Hex stopped. It did what it does every week. It goes, please stand by to say, oh, the episode over. I'm sorry, bro. You got to wait till next Friday. And I love it. I like watching weekly shows, specifically myself. But I know a lot of people are like, no, not again. But I will say this about this particular episode. What's going on with Wanda is very important to them. And, I watch a few other things that I'm going to be reviewing for you. And once upon a time, they have this saying through the whole thing. They say, all magic come with a price, which kind of fits this. So she's using magic to fill voids inside of her. But there's a price that's being paid for that. And honestly, I can't wait till the next episode. I'm loving this series so much. These little Marvel traditionalists, I wish they'll stop watching because I'm tired of seeing they little nonsense on Facebook and Twitter and everywhere else. Go somewhere else. You don't have to have these big reveals every time something go on. Things don't have to be like you want it. They're dealing with somebody's trauma, and this is the way they're dealing with it. And all you can think about is an MCU movie. So y'all can get on with that. Because I'm loving the show. And like I said, this is 5 pair of glasses if you want to take it as a review. And I would keep telling you, go watch. Go watch it, go watch it, go watch it. And if you haven't seen any episode, you need to start from episode 1. Because for it to really have an impact on what you're doing. And I can't wait until that next episode. And I think it's a limited series, so I think it might only be 8 episodes. So I'm starting to think we're only 2 episodes out, but I have to review that to verify that. But I can't wait for the next one. But it do feel like Wanda is finna get to a point. Yeah, I feel like Wanda's finna get to a point where, man, she's basically gonna cause a whole bunch of mess in this world. And I'm starting to think that she's actually gonna be what people quote unquote call the villain in Doctor Strange 2, the multiverse. But I think I told y'all that before. But again, this was such a great episode. I loved it so much. And the commercial I didn't really get into, so I don't think I'm going to get into it now, but it was interesting in itself as well. But I just want to say thank y'all for coming again. I hope y'all enjoying these reviews as much as I am giving them, as much as I am watching the show and talking to y'all about it. But I can't wait until we can keep talking more about it. I can't wait till the next episode. This should be dropping soon on YouTube. And I should be dropping some more top 4 should be coming soon. And the Stranger Things season 1, episode 1 should be dropping soon. As well as the Once Upon a Time, season 1, episode 1 should be dropping soon as well. Thank y'all again for coming. But before I go, if y'all just want to talk this show, if y'all want to talk anything eclectic, make sure y'all follow me at Blerd Eclectic on Twitter, at _Eclectic Blerd on Instagram. You can follow the page on Facebook at What the Song. And again, don't forget to subscribe and like this and comment. Become one of my eclectics. I just want to say thanks again for watching the whole thing with me and talking with me and commenting with me and subscribing for the channel. I can't wait to talk to y'all next time. I'm out.